Welcome to Northworthy Sagas and Stories.
Hello, good day, and welcome back to the channel. I'm your host for today, Bragi Magnusson, son of Magnar, and I'm a Viking warrior and a teller of stories. Now, today's folktale is a folktale about a mermaid. Now, we've already heard a story from me of Grim and the Mermaid of Grimsey Island. Now, you can see that in a card up there. Please click and watch that after you watch this story. I'd appreciate it. And we also have a playlist on mermaids, which we will slowly develop as I tell and Eggle tells more stories of mermaids. And hopefully you'll see Tirkir tell a story of mermaids one day. Now, our story is set in England and is an English folktale, and is called The Hunter and the Mermaid of the Pool. Now, once upon a time, there was a farmer, and he had a small holdings. He had a bit of land, he had some animals, and he used to like to grow turnips. He loved turnips, and he decided that one day he was going to go hunting. He went out of meat. He needed to shoot some deer and butcher some deer. So that was what he was after, deer. And he decided to go hunting. He grabbed his bow and arrow. He had an axe. Every warrior and hunter needs an axe. And he had a shield just in case he met anybody on the way who he didn't like or he fell out with. And he was out in the woods. On that day he killed a few ducks with his bow and arrow. He got his sling out and got a few as well. And he saw a deer in the distance, but it was too far away for him to shoot it with his bow. So he decided to stalk it. And he lived in a valley. And the valley was surrounded with hillsides, and on top of the hills was old moors with pools and ponds and lakes. And he was hunting this deer, stalking it. And gradually the deer started to go out of the wood in the valley and started to go up the hillside. So he kept on following, hoping to get a bit closer, staying downwind of course. He didn't want the deer to smell him. And he slowly climbed up the hill, following the deer off. And then suddenly he heard this kind of a sound in the distance in the wind. It was like a singing. He never heard this sound before. A sweet singing sound. And he wondered what that was. Now, he heard stories before of a pool up on this moor called Mermaid's Pool. And he never really believed the stories of some old sailor bringing a mermaid to the pool and leaving it there. He always thought that was some kind of myth. But he kept on hearing this sound, and it kept on enticing him to go closer. And at this point, the sound has becomes to be so sweet and so pure to his ears. He'd forgotten all about the deer and what he was out for, to hunt. And he kept on walking up the hillside, and the sound of the singing got louder and louder. And eventually he came on top of the hill, on the flat, and he saw a pool in the distance. And sitting by the edge of the pool, well, he definitely thought he saw a mermaid, but he kept on rubbing his eyes. He didn't believe it. There can't be a mermaid up here. This is all rubbish. This is not true. But she was singing, continuing singing, and he kept on following the singing until he got closer and closer, until they was very close to each other. And the mermaid enticed him into the pool and into an underwater cave. And the hunter, the farmer, well, he disappeared. And his family looked for him for weeks and weeks. They looked in the forest, and they looked on top of the moors. They looked for him. They thought he might have been ambushed by some warriors, but they couldn't find any traces of that of a fight. And they carried on for a few months until they got to the point when they kind of gave up that he would turn up. And they knew something had happened to the farmer, to the hunter. Well, some time passed, and a year passed. A year to the day when the farmer, who was out hunting, disappeared. And there was feasting to celebrate that it's been a year. They wanted to remember the farmer. The children wanted to remember the dad, and the wife wanted to remember the husband. And there was feasting in the longhouse, and they had mead and all kinds of meats and turnips, of course. That was well known for growing turnips. And there was a knocking at the door. Oh, they wasn't expecting any guests, they're not inviting anybody. They wanted to keep this celebration, you know, to themselves. So the older of the farm, the oldest senior member, the granddad, he went to the door, and to his surprise it was his son. The hunter had disappeared, who had turned up. And he told the story of what happened. I heard this wonderful sound of the mermaid singing, and I enticed him up the moor and into the pool, and she enticed him into this cave, and he spent a year in this cave, in this underground world, you know, not knowing where he was, and eventually he escaped, and now he's back, and this family rejoiced, they was happy, and the farm and the family lived in peace forevermore and a day. And no more was heard of this mermaid, though the pool on top of the moor is still named Mermaid's Pool. And where I live, in Northworthy, some miles away up the moors, there are some pools named Mermaid Pools, although this story has no relation to them. But I like to think that, well, perhaps one of them had a mermaid and would have enticed this hunter into the pool. And that is the end of our folk tale. Now, if you like this folk tale and you'd like to see more, then please watch our content, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell. We thank you for watching. If you got to this far in the story, in the video, well, you're totally awesome. I completely love you for that. And thank you for being a great fan of the channel. And I will see you in my next story, which I'll be telling the story of Boots and how he made the princess say, "That's the story." Although I may have published that before this video. So, there you go. Was hail. Good health to all those that watch.